Let me ask you something. What's more dangerous to your XRP retirement account? A 50% market crash or 5% silent inflation every year? Here's the brutal truth. Both can destroy decades of savings, but only one of them gets headlines. The other? It creeps in slowly, year after year, and by the time you notice, it's already taken everything. And still, most investors spend more time chasing the next bull run than learning how to protect what they've already built. You spent years contributing to your XRP Roth IRA, but the question is, can it survive what's coming? Today we'll talk about the missing piece no one tells you. How to crash-proof your crypto IRA. How to outpace inflation without gambling. And how to make sure your future doesn't get quietly stolen. Let's begin. Part 1. The crash that no one sees coming. Crashes don't send a warning. They don't ring a bell. They don't give you time to breathe. One day, everything looks fine. Green candles, bullish tweets, XRP pushing upward. And the next day, red. Everywhere. Panic spreads like wildfire. This is how wealth is lost. Not because of bad investments, but because people weren't ready for the storm. If your XRP IRA is built only for growth, but not for defense, then it's not complete. Because markets crash. They always have. They always will. And if you haven't built protection before the fall, you don't get to rebuild after. A smart XRP Roth IRA isn't just about what you buy. It's about how you survive. Not just during the highs, but during the violent drops no one saw coming. And here's the truth. If you wait until the crash begins to start preparing, you're already too late. Part 2. Inflation eats in silence. Crashes make noise. They scream across the headlines. They demand your attention. But inflation? Inflation whispers. It doesn't shock you in a single day. It erodes you. $1 at a time, 1 year at a time, until the things you could afford become unreachable, until the life you saved for costs double. And here's the danger. Most investors don't even feel it happening. They look at their balance and smile. But behind that number, the value is shrinking. Your XRP retirement account isn't just fighting volatility. It's fighting time. And time is where inflation hides best. If your XRP Roth IRA isn't built to outpace that silent enemy, then no amount of growth can save you. This is why your strategy must go beyond holding. It must include positioning, protection, hedging against the unseen forces quietly draining your future. Because inflation doesn't just steal money, it steals options. It steals time. And if you don't fight back early, it wins. Part 3. A portfolio without armor. Most investors build portfolios like they're invincible. They go all in on one asset. They trust the market will always go up. And they assume if something goes wrong, they'll just ride it out. But what happens when the crash hits harder than expected? What happens when inflation runs hotter than planned? Suddenly, that confident portfolio starts to feel naked, exposed, unprotected. Your XRP IRA should not be a glass house. It should be a fortress, a place where wealth is protected, not just grown. That means having buffers, holding some cash, maybe diversifying inside the IRA structure, not as a sign of fear, but as a sign of wisdom. Because without armor, you don't get time to recover. The first hit takes everything. If you want to build long-term wealth with XRP, you must stop thinking like a trader and start thinking like a general. Prepare for the war before it begins, or be forced to surrender when it does. Part 4. Why your IRA is not just a wallet. Your XRP IRA is not just a wallet. It's not a vault where you simply store coins and forget about them. It's not a drawer you open once a year to check the number. No, it's a living structure, a foundation, a long-term base where your future is quietly taking shape. Most people treat their IRA like a savings jar. They toss in XRP and hope. Hope the market goes up. Hope inflation stays low. Hope retirement just works out. But hope is not a strategy. Your IRA must be built like a plan, with intention, with defense, with layers that hold strong, not just in bull markets, but through chaos. A real XRP Roth IRA is a system. It's where structure meets purpose. It gives you the ability to hold, not because you're stubborn, but because your foundation is strong. That's why the smart investor doesn't just ask, how much XRP do I own? They ask, is my XRP protected inside the right system? Because long-term freedom depends on more than what you hold. It depends on how you hold it. Part 5. Crash-proof mindset. It's not just about your portfolio. It's about your perspective. Because when the market crashes, the first thing to break isn't the chart. It's your confidence. And here's the truth most investors ignore. No strategy works if your mindset doesn't hold. A crash-proof IRA isn't only about cash reserves or asset allocation. It's about the ability to sit still while the storm rages, to stay calm when red fills your screen, to trust the plan you built when everything inside you wants to run. The market doesn't destroy people. Panic does. Inside your XRP retirement account, you've built a structure. Now you need to build the mental strength to protect it. Because when the next crash comes, and it will, your greatest risk won't be the price of XRP. It will be the voice in your head that says, sell now, get out. If you want long-term wealth, you need short-term resilience. Mindset is not optional. It's the lock that keeps your future safe when fear tries to break in. Part 6. Inflation hedging inside your IRA. Inflation doesn't ask permission. It just shows up, silently, steadily, and makes everything cost more. Groceries, gas, housing, and yes, even retirement itself. That's why your XRP IRA can't just be about growth. It has to be built for protection. And one of the smartest protections? Hedging against inflation from the inside. Your IRA isn't frozen. It's flexible. You can position different types of assets within it, including XRP, gold, even stable cash positions. Not because you're unsure of the future, but because you understand how the future works. XRP may rise, but if inflation runs faster, your gains vanish in silence. That's why smart investors don't just hodl. They position. They balance. They build a shield before the fire starts. Inside your crypto IRA XRP, you have more power than you think. Use that power to hedge, to protect, to ensure that what you're building today still has value when you finally need it. Part 7. The value of holding when others fold. In every crash, there's a moment where people stop thinking and start reacting. The headlines scream, the charts bleed red, and wallets across the world empty out in fear. But in that exact moment, someone else holds, quietly, calmly, with no audience. They don't panic because they've already planned. They don't fold because they understand. The real profit comes not from buying low, but from not selling when it gets hard. Inside your XRP IRA, this is your superpower. Not leverage, not risk, but stillness. Because the market always comes back. Always. But most people don't. They sell, they exit, and they watch from the outside as recovery happens without them. When others fold, you hold. And in that act of quiet defiance, you win. Not just financially, but emotionally. Because you didn't just build a portfolio, you built conviction. Part 8. The hidden cost of doing nothing. Everyone talks about bad decisions. Buying the wrong coin, selling too early, missing the dip. But what almost no one talks about is the price you pay when you do nothing. You don't build a plan. You don't prepare for crashes. You don't adjust for inflation. You just drift. And in that silence, you lose more than money. You lose time. You lose security. You lose the power to respond when things go wrong. Inside your XRP IRA, every month you delay setting up a protection plan, inflation keeps eating, the market keeps moving, and your options keep shrinking. Doing nothing feels safe, but it's the most expensive strategy of all. Because when the crash hits and you're not ready, you can't go back in time and fix it. The damage is done. Smart investors don't wait until it's urgent. They act when it's quiet. They prepare while others sleep, and that's why they're still standing, long after the unprepared are swept away. Part 9. Prepare. Don't predict. Everyone wants to be the genius who called the top, who saw the crash coming, who predicted the exact moment XRP would explode or collapse. But the market doesn't reward fortune tellers. It rewards the prepared. You don't need to know when the next crash is coming. You just need to know that it will. Maybe next week, maybe next year. But eventually, it comes. The question isn't, will it happen? It's, will you be ready? Inside your XRP IRA, preparation beats prediction. A smart investor doesn't time the storm. They build the roof before it rains. You don't prepare because you're scared. You prepare because you're serious. Because your future is too important to leave to luck or guesses. Position your assets, balance your risks, strengthen your mindset, and when the unexpected arrives, you won't flinch. You'll already be standing in the shelter you built, while everyone else runs for cover. Part 10. True freedom is protected. Freedom. You didn't build your XRP IRA just to watch it rise and fall with the waves. You built it for something more. Something deeper. Freedom. The ability to retire on your terms. To wake up without fear. To live without compromise. But freedom isn't automatic. And it's not just about how much you gain. It's about how much you keep. How much you protect. Because unprotected wealth disappears. Unprepared portfolios vanish. And without defense, even your best investments can be lost in a single moment. Real freedom comes from preparation, from structure, from a plan that's built to last, through crashes, through inflation, through uncertainty. When you protect what matters, you don't just retire rich. You retire in peace, confident, unshaken. And that's the real goal. Not just numbers on a screen, but freedom you can feel, because you know you earned it, and you know it's safe. If today's message spoke to you, if it gave you clarity, calm, or just one strategy to protect your future, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit like, not for the algorithm, but to remind yourself, I'm serious about this. Drop a comment below. Tell me, how are you preparing your XRP IRA for what's ahead? What's your biggest fear and your strongest belief? I read every word, and if you know someone, a brother, a friend, a colleague, who's holding XRP, but not holding it safely, share this video with them. They might thank you 5 years from now. And finally, subscribe to XRP Today USA, because every day we go deeper. We don't chase the noise, we build the future. Your freedom isn't a guess, it's a decision. Let's make it together.